Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited coming at you with another episode of Nitro's Take, and we are taking a look at the final AEW pay-per-view of 2020. It is Full Gear, and it happened November 7, 2020, live from Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, where they've held all of their pay-per-views this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. And so if you're brand new to the channel and wonder, hey, what's a Nitro's Take? Well, it's my take on the card, so you'll hear some of my favorite moments from all the matches, what I thought of each match, and at the end, we'll go to you guys over on Twitter and we'll pick our match of the night. The polls are already up on my Twitter at Kellen Nitro, so feel free to follow me via Twitter. And you guys will be amongst the first to vote the next time I decide to do this, which will be, well, earliest Survivor Series weekend. So, yeah, follow away, subscribe, follow right now, and you won't miss a second. We start with the buy-in, and one match on the pre-show to buy in, and it was a big one. It was for the NWA World Women's Championship. Serena Deb, the champion, taking on Allison K, the former champion. K, the former NWA champ, lost the belt at NWA Hard Times back in January to Thunder Rosa, and Deb just beat Thunder Rosa a few weeks ago on NWA UWN Primetime Live. Allison declared free agency earlier this week from her NWA contract, so is this a tryout with AEW? Who knows? She looked great in this contest. Former tag partners from Shimmer and other indies, but not lately. And the match starts and the champ is taking it to Allison K early, but then it devolves into a brawl, and a lot of nice amateur wrestling in this too. Both girls can amateur wrestle, and it was fun to watch. Stun gun by Kato turns the tide. Apparently they allowed something like 1,000 people in or 1,000 more people in, but the building felt a lot more fuller than it had been in the past, and you could audibly hear it, which was nice. Deb wrenches K's knee on the ropes and then locks into Serenity Lock, her finish for the submission, and the runtime for this match was 10:25. Serena Deb defeating Allison K and retaining the NWA World Women's Championship. Would like to offer more about the NWA. All I can tell you is post-match, Thunder Rosa hits the ring. Looks like she wants Deb and the title, so pay attention to upcoming NWA UWN live cards coming up every Tuesday on pay-per-view for potentially that match between now and, later on. Maybe there might be something on Dynamite as well, as AEW and NWA seem to be working for this agreement. For more information, though, check out my buddy Gary Thorne and his buds every week on the This Is the NWA podcast. They're over on iTunes, YouTube, etc. Check them out. Linkski below, and they got all the down low on what's happening with Billy Corgan's brand right now. We see an amazing promo by Eddie Kingston, says he doesn't care about Pac nor Lance Archer. The only thing that counts is Moxley and that title. And they're the main event tonight, I Quit Rules for the AEW Championship. Another phenomenal open by AEW's production team, and we get a shocker for an opening contest. The World Title Eliminator Final is the opener. Yes, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page was the opener for an AEW pay-per-view in 2020. Say what? I'm equally as shocked that Don Callis is the fourth man in the booth. Yeah, what? They're bringing in Don Callis. He's an Impact guy. Impact and AEW don't have a relationship. What's the deal there, right? Well, we don't know. That's the thing. As I'm recording this right now, they're doing the post-match press conferences, so there might be something that comes down via that with people, and especially when Tony Khan takes the mic and speaks. So maybe later in the week I'll update this with some more relevant information once we know what's coming down or whatever. But I think this was just a pure friendship thing. I think that Callis and Omega obviously are buds way back from Winnipeg, and they just decided to bring them in, and it's an off weekend for Impact. They don't have a pay-per-view or anything this weekend, so why not? Bring them in. The Chiron for Hangman going into this match. Focused yeehaw, man. I lolled on that. Omega totally doing the Killian entrance from Running Man. Damian Killian, I believe was the character's name. The game show host, that the dude that hosted Family Feud for so many years played in the movie. His name's not coming to mind right now. Neither him or the character's name. So it's a weekend. My brain shut off. But it's very Running Man-esque from the 80s. and then it goes right into his music. So awesome to hear Callis on commentary during a Kenny Omega match. Yes, it's always fun. Amazing sequence on the outside. A Taro Crusher by Kenny only nets a 1 count. This is, various spots throughout the match. Omega may have tweaked his knee on a standing moonsault. He might have tweaked his knee on that moonsault, but by the end of the night, when we get to the end of the card and that stuff, he seemed to be walking in perfect shape and that stuff. So I think that this was just maybe something that was either a sell job in the match or one of the quick little tweaks that, hey, after the match, if you sit down, let it calm down for a little bit, it goes away. So both exchange one-winged angel attempts, and Omega lands a V-trigger on the apron. Massive powerbomb by Page on the ramp, and then another one only nets 2 for Hangman. Lariat Deadeye attempt by Page only nets 2, but then a one-winged angel nets the 1-2-3 for Omega, but he had to fight for it, and only after Hangman went for another buckshot lariat. I have expletive what a match on here. The runtime for this thing was 16 minutes and 25 seconds. It was a hell of an opener. It'll be up there for one of the matches of the year from AEW. It might be up there at the end of the year for a match of the year across the board. It was that good. Kind of a sort of predictable result with Omega walking out with the victory there. I think that this was kind of a toss-up. I think you expected Omega and Page to kind of meet in the final here to kind of blow off their feud as former tag champs feuding. But I do like this match. I do like the pace of this match. I had a lot of fun watching this match. And, maybe taking it back. Maybe we weren't expecting a result here. Maybe this was, truly a 50-50 split amongst fans. But anyways, Kenny Omega, #1 contender after tonight for the AEW World Championship. Put your comments below. Let me know what you think about that. Next matchup, Orange Cassidy versus John Silver. And that's after we find out that Tuesday we're going to get a big AEW video game announcement. Wonder what that could be. A lot of hype with the new gen consoles coming out here in the next few weeks or so. Video game hype is real. I know I got some favorites that are coming out next year, and yeah, I'm psyched. But yes, anyway, John Silver versus Orange Cassidy. We got Johnny Hungy versus freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy. Two of AEW's best comedic talents over the past month or two. Great pacing after the brutalness of the previous contest. There was a hilarious spot with Silver ripping out Cassidy's pockets out of his pants. It was hilarious. Great spot where Dragon Sleeper by Orange countered by Silver with a deep squat and a suplex. Only 2 for Silver. Silver showed off his athleticism big time in this match. For a small guy, the dude is bottom heavy and he's built. The guy's got legs like tree trunks. It's amazing. Just an amazing athlete for sure in there. Diving DDT only nets 2 for Orange. Silver lands a single-handed gorilla press. Wow. But Michinoku driver by Orange only nets a 2 count. Silver hits his finisher, the Spin Doctor, but only nets a 2 count as well. Silver goes for the Discus Punch, which was made famous by, I guess, his mentor in the Dark Order, Brody Lee, but he misses it. Orange Punch and Beach Break, 1-2-3. Cassidy gets the pin. Very reminiscent of Jungle Boy MJF from earlier this year. They will meet again somewhere down the future, but it kind of had the same kind of, two young athletes. This is what our future is going to be type vibe from AEW in this one, and a very passable contest for sure. This one ran 9:40 and would probably be right at home in the second hour of AEW Dynamite as it was during the first hour of a pay-per-view. Great stuff. Very watchable match. The next contest was a TNT title, Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin. And this match and the end of the last match, Silver and Cassidy, went head-to-head with President-elect Joe Biden's acceptance speech. So there was a long video vignette prior to this. Just because I think a lot of people had switched off after the Omega Page match and tuned to all the news channels and that stuff because they saw that Silver and Orange Cassidy were going to be wrestling, and they kind of figured, that's a preliminary bout, whatever. And they figured, oh, that's a preliminary bout, whatever. And then they decided, hey, we'll go check out what's happening with the newly elected president-elect, because he was supposed to be talking tonight, and he did talk. So, like I said, long video vignette prior to this, and theatric entrances with Allin rolling in an 87 Mazda, and basically beating the hell out of it with his skateboard. And Cody has a Nightmare Family all kind of coming out and giving him a rah-rah. And we get the long championship announcements. Mike Chioda is in the ring as a ref. The records going into this one, Allin at 13-5, Cody with a 22-1 record, and then the bell rings. So I think they probably spent about 10 or 15 minutes getting ready to throw to this thing. I think that might have been the length of President-elect Biden's speech. I'm not exactly sure, but you could kind of see what they were doing. This was a classic smaller athlete versus larger athlete match. Allin hits a tope suicida to the outside. Cody, though, rebounds with a hammerlock slam to the ramp. Cody working on that hammerlock all match long. Arn, though, telling Cody not to showboat. Yoshitonic by Darby only nets a 2 count. Avalanche crossroads from the top rope. Are you kidding me? Only nets a 2 as the arm is under the ropes. Darby is outsmarting Cody so far. Gorilla press by Cody only nets 2. Last Supper attempt by Darby only nets 2, which is Darby's submission hold. A coffin drop by Darby, and he only gets a 2 off of that. But he did learn from the previous matchup. Now, don't forget, going into this match, Cody was 3-0 versus Darby in previous matches. He learned from our last match during the TNT title tournament, the semifinals, though, and didn't allow himself to be pinned. Rotating small packages, and Darby gets the surprise at 1-2-3. And post-match, Cody on one knee hands the belt over to Darby. Taz then walks out, interrupts, and all of a sudden, Cody and Darby are jumped by Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Some small dissension between Starks and Cage as they both grab the TNT title after laying out both Cody and Darby. Cage then throws Darby through a set piece, and then they try to break Darby's arm on the 87 Mazda, but Will Hobbs interrupts and runs them off. So obviously building a program for the coming weeks on Dynamite with the 6 of those individuals. Runtime for that was 17 minutes on the nose. And again, singles match for AEW TNT Championship, new TNT champion Darby Allin. QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes promo their bunkhouse match with Butcher and the Blade on Wednesday, and we get Penta L0M versus Ray Phoenix 2 as well during this Wednesday's AEW Dynamite, plus all the fallout from this pay-per-view. So it's going to be a can't-miss show. Probably going to be monster in the ratings as well. AEW Women's title, Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rhodes with Vicky Guerrero. This is a rematch from Double or Nothing this year. There's a hot start with Shida taking it to her. Big knee trigger on the outside by Shida, but Vicky hits Shida's leg with a kendo stick. All match, it's selling that leg, but landing offense by Shida. Diving knee drop on the back of the knee by Rose only nets a 2 count. 2 diving drop kicks by Shida only nets 2. Nyla Rose hits a Tomashi of her own, which is the kind of the Shining Wizard, the V-trigger almost, that Shida uses. And she only nets a 1 count. Avalanche Falcon Arrow, and Shida pulls up Rose at 2. But this is right after Rose hit a offensive maneuver of some sort. I can't remember what it was. But she went for a pin right after on Shida, but only pulled her up after a 2 count as well, as if Vicky and Nyla were playing with Hikaru Shida throughout this. So this was kind of a good monkey see, monkey do type spot where she did, the big maneuver and then pulled up Nyla, saying, with a real sick smile on her face, saying, "I ain't done yet." Vicky tries to hit Nyla with a kendo stick, but Shida counteracts. Falcon Arrow only nets a 2 count. Tomashi by Shida once again nets a 2 count. The second Tomashido and a series of MMA knee strikes though, and Shida retains with a 1-2-3. This was a very more gritty affair than the first one. Very enjoyable though. And the runtime for this was 14:10 for the AEW World Women's Championship, and Shida retains the title. So, yeah, I preferred this match over the one from earlier this year. I thought that this one was a very entertaining, more grittier encounter, told a better story, and you can tell that the chemistry between the two they're going to be kind of like the forever rivals of this women's division, that they're always going to try to be going through each other here. Post-match, very interesting. So the Vicious Vixens seem to be no more, with Vicky very angry at Nyla, slaps her, and the two head their separate ways to the back. So we'll see what happens on Dynamite on Wednesday. AEW World Tag Team title on the line. FTR with Tully Blanchard versus the Young Bucks. If the Bucks lose, then they are out of the title chase forever, but FTR will have Tully Blanchard banned from ringside. Bucks with a 9-3 record, and FTR with a 12-0 record going into this one. Tons of double team moves between the two, and if you wanted a microcosm of double team wrestling maneuvers over the past 30 to 35 years in pro wrestling, watch this match. Maybe package it up and send it to Saturn or something like that in one of the satellites or something, because you got it here. Harwood's hand gets busted open after chopping the post inadvertently. Cashton starts working on Matt's angle. That was storyline. And Harwood's hand, did a blade job on the hand. That's storyline as well. After Matt hit a moonsault, powerplex attempt by FTR, so Power and Glory reference. But it's reversed and Matt almost gets a 2 count. Bucks the first to kind of do the hot tag. A heart attack later on by FTR, so not to the Heart Foundation, only nets a 2. Shades of the Steiner brothers, though, by the Young Bucks with a Doomsday Bulldog 1 week after the anniversary of Halloween Havoc 90 by the Bucks. They only get a 2 count. A 3D and then a Twist of Fate and then a Swanton Bomb by the Bucks. Only nets a 2 count. So the Dudleys and then Team 3D getting referenced. A great exchange by Dax and Matt in the ring. FTR pulling a page. This was shocking here. FTR pulling a page out of Gargano and Ciampa's playbook. Yes, DIY's playbook with their finish. And only nets a 2 count off of that. A sharpshooter attempt by Matt. Then Nick locks one in too, so maybe an homage to the Hart brothers with that. But Matt's left leg gives out again with the ankle issue and so on and so forth. V2V trigger only nets 2 for the Bucks. Meltzer driver attempt thwarted. Mega powerbomb to Nick, though through the timekeeper table allows a mindbreaker attempt. Arn and Tully obviously to be hit by the call them the Reviver, FTR I should say. And Nick, though, breaks up the FTR submission attempt. Springboard 450 by Wheeler, and he missed. Matt hits a super kick with the bad leg and nails the 1-2-3. And like I said, if you wanted a microcosm of tag team wrestling for the last 30 years, this was it. Runtime here is 28:35. The newsletter writers and all the critics of wrestling will probably love this match. I not as much as the one from Revolution. I thought the one from Revolution back in February had a better ambience to it and a better presentation, kind of more spontaneous. This here kind of felt like two tag teams doing tributes to a lot of double team maneuvers from the past and everything, which was, kind of to be expected. I just didn't think that it was going to happen to the extent that we've seen it tonight. With 28:35, like I said, was the runtime, and very passable. It'll be up there in the top 5 for tag team matches of the year for sure, and very enjoyable. But is it the best tag team match of the year? I don't know. That Revolution match with Kenny, Hangman Page, and the Bucks back in February that's going to take a lot to touch. That still is, chef's kiss, right? So the Elite Deletion match was up next. Sammy Guevara versus Matt Hardy. I thought this was going to be a total cinematic, and it ended up kind of more being like a pre-taped WWF hardcore match from like the Attitude Era a little bit. I like the monster trucks in wrestling. I always do. Shout out to my first home video warfare review that's up on Daily Motion right now. You can check that out at the link below. In this video, I'll link it up. Halloween Havoc 95. So, hello, homage with that. With Matt Hardy driving a monster truck over top of Sammy Guevara's golf cart. That was pretty cool. I like this. Kind of a mix of old school WWF hardcore and cinematic. Hardy looks to have the match won with a powerbomb through the table, but Santana and Ortiz break into the compound. Private Party shows up. And, of course, Hardy compound. There's fireworks. I love the Gangrel Hurricane Helms cameo outside of the Lake of Reincarnation. I love the fill-in-the-gap storytelling between Helms asking, what took you so long? But, you know, I think the last time we seen him was way back, maybe during the Halloween bash on the WWE Network way back in the day when they did that a couple of years ago with House Hardy, right? So the House Hardy Halloween. And the explanation with that was great. Gangrel popping out of nowhere, basically saying, you were my protege, but now I don't like you anymore. But his voice was distorted, so he kind of looked like the Black Scorpion to begin with. And I was like, what the hell? Anyways, they all fight to the Dome of Deletion, and it's one-on-one with Sammy and Matt. Sammy climbs the ladder and Swanton dives for only 2 after choking out Matt. Big spear through 2 tables, and Sammy is bleeding from the mouth and the back of the head with obviously fake blood. Concerto to the head, and Matt Hardy gets the 1-2-3. Post-match, Senior Benjamin takes away the trash. You have to do this right now with Matt because we're unsure of his physical state, if he's going to be able to come back, you know, not even this year, but you know, later on in the year, so on and so forth. So you have to tell these type of stories and whatever. Plus, it's Matt's creative vision is all this cinematic stuff. He's kind of the Thomas Edison / Ed Wood of all this cinematic wrestling junk from 2016 on. And this is actually my favorite cinematic of the year. I really enjoyed this just because it was the perfect mix of comedy, live action, you name it. I thought it was better than the Stadium Stampede. I thought that it was a very entertaining match, and it took place in a very familiar setting in the Hardy compound with a lot of, you know, inside references from past matches, so it really rewarded the longtime viewer. So, you know, again, chef's kiss. Great stuff. All right, we get a Lance Archer and Jake Roberts promo. Says he will break every single person in All Elite Wrestling. And then we head back to the ring. MJF versus Chris Jericho. If MJF wins, he's in the Inner Circle. From what we just saw, the entire Inner Circle will be a non-factor here. Yeah, basically, with the exception of Jake Hager. You know, Guevara, Santana, Ortiz are stuck in Cameron, North Carolina, so they're not going to be down here for the match, obviously. MJF mocking Jericho's entrance. Interesting, fun build to this. Jericho takes it to the outside and pulls off the old NJPW flip off the fans with the camera gimmick, flip off the wrestler with the camera gimmick. Jericho hits the Judas effect, but misses MJF and nails the ring post with it. So again, telling the story of another injured limb that a heel is going to work on. A Frankensteiner attempt for Jericho hits and only nets a 2 count for him, but MJF keeps working the arm. Boston Crab by Jericho, no dice. MJF hits a Codebreaker and then a Heat Seeker, but only nets a 2 count. Jericho hits a Codebreaker himself, only nets a 2 count. Judas effect attempt again, and MJF locks in the Salt of the Earth armbar. Wardlow, though, hands off the Dynamite Diamond ring, but Jake Hager finds a bat to hand to Jericho. MJF plays possum in the Eddie Guerrero type way, and before he does that, flips off Jericho, but then kind of just lays out dead. Aubrey Edwards, who's the ref, turns around, sees the baseball bat in Jericho's hands, and is about to disqualify him, but then MJF rolls up Jericho, and that's the 1-2-3. MJF is in the Inner Circle. Post-match, the two embrace as MJF and Wardlow are in. So Jericho's Inner Circle now is grown by 2. Is this a challenge for the leadership? I guess that's a storyline going into 2021 with the Inner Circle. We'll see what happens. We have a date for the next pay-per-view. It is AEW Revolution, Saturday, February 27th, 2021. No site has been picked for this thing yet. No location has been picked for this thing yet. So we can assume right now that it'll be back at Daly's Place in Jacksonville due to the coronavirus pandemic and restrictions and everything. We'll have to wait and see. This is still 4 months down the road a little bit, so it's at the end of February. Things might have changed by then, but we'll take a look and we'll see what happens. And it's not on a leap year. It'll be on the 27th. So the best friends are being interviewed in the back, but Kip Muro and Penelope Ford interrupt. Seems like this feud will continue, and there might be something coming up on Wednesday between potentially Kip Sabian and Orange Cassidy going one-on-one next. AEW Championship. This is I Quit Rules, the champion Jon Moxley versus the challenger Eddie Kingston. Kingston, one of the biggest stories of 2020, walking out in the Misawa tribute gear. Mox looking like $1 million. Mox 20-0 going into this one. Kingston didn't submit in their matchup earlier this year, hence we have the rematch on pay-per-view under I Quit Rules. Mox working over the hand early, using a chair and joint manipulation on him. Mox gets busted open but brings in the barbed wire bat, and it breaks down into a hardcore CCW-esque war shortly thereafter that. After hitting Mox with a barbed wire blows and a spinning back fist, Kingston locks in a submission hold, but Mox fights out of it. The suplex sequence was Chef's Kiss once again. I'll throw that out there. Kingston belly-to-belly on Mox into the racks on the outside. Kingston, though, lands a belly-to-belly on thumbtacks that are throwing a skew in the ring, and Mox goes into the thumbtacks. Kingston then grabs some rubbing alcohol and just pours it all over Mox's back. Bulldog choke on Mox. Mox doesn't quit. And then Mox hits a gotch pile driver into the Bulldog choke. No quit. Paradigm shift and no quit out of Kingston as well. But very interesting that he throws a gotch pile driver into it, as rumored over in New Japan for 2021 might be a Minoru Suzuki Jon Moxley match, for next year. So we'll see what happens. Bulldog choke with the barbed wire by Mox, and he finally gets a submission as Kingston mumbles, "I quit," and immediately starts to cry in the ring. Mox retains for the title. 2 years in a row, Full Gear becomes the Jon Moxley hardcore experience. Yes, indeed. Post-match, Kenny Omega comes out in a 2 stare down. This is where I'm talking about from earlier in the review, that Omega looked like he was close to 100% or so. Like I said, haven't had a chance to listen or watch any of the post-match kind of press conference-y type things, but once I do, I will fire back with some thoughts and some comments maybe later this week in a vlog type format or something. Runtime for the show was 3 hours, 41 minutes. And 42 seconds, if you like to count seconds or whatever. I will give this an overall 8.5 out of 10. I thought if you loved wrestling, then this card was for you. There were some amazing matches in this. Of course, the Young Bucks FTR match was highly anticipated for years, and we finally got that. Hangman Page and Kenny Omega were a very was an entertaining match. Again, you had no idea which direction you were going to go with this one. This main event, too, was highly talked about, too. Like, could Kingston be walking out with the title? He didn't, but, putting out a very good showing for him as well in this match. So, I think he'd be pretty satisfied with the match that they got, match quality for this, and so on and so forth. So, we got one more thing we got to do. We got to head over to Twitter, and we got to take a look at what match you guys picked for Match of the Night. And with a percentage of 46.7% out of a total of, wow, it looks like to be about 25, 26 votes. Hey, this is shorter than the American election results. Right on. Great. And easy to comprehend as well. It looks as though the FTR Young Bucks match got your guys' pick for Match of the Night, followed closely behind the TNT match with Cody and Darby, and Mox and Kingston trailing that. So that's going to be my unscientific way of doing things. But there you go, folks. That's your pick for Match of the Night. Thank you very much for taking part in the poll. Later days, happy wrestling watching, folks, and we'll catch you next time on Nitromaniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Share, like, subscribe to video, so on and so forth. Later, folks.